Hi, and welcome to our webcast for June 1st, 2018. My name is Christian Debré, and this is Amy Asbrook, the director of Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet, and
Hello.
also joining us, Taylor Ayat, just over there.
Why are you so excited?
Our policy analysis and outreach coordinator.
Hi.
Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet is a non-religious organization by and for people with disabilities and our allies. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give voice to the disability rights opposition to assisted suicide, euthanasia, and other ending of life practices that discriminate people with disabilities. Today's topics: the executioner's fee, because this is what we call people who kill people legally, and this it is in the dictionary.
Yeah.
A new report about euthanasia in Quebec is the next subject. To talk about it, Amy Asbrook will help us through those subjects.
I will do my best anyway. Okay, last week we talked about people profiting illegally from assisted suicide and euthanasia. Today, we're looking at the wages earned legally by doctors who euthanize people in Canada.
And those doctors are executioners.
Correct. There is no single payment to doctors to cover every activity connected to euthanasia. While some provinces have created specific rates and billing codes for euthanasia-related services, like eligibility assessments, administering the lethal dose, filling out death certificates, and filing reports, others have included these activities under existing codes.
So that way, it's not the right way to do, because doing that, it's eliminate any way you could do statistic.
Right. It makes it much harder to track what categories they're billing under. For billing it as an office visit, or they billing it as a consultation. They have different codes.
And you doesn't know this is a euthanasia.
Right.
If there is a special code for euthanasia, at least you could say, okay, that's the way that things are going.
Right, but again, they don't report the death as a euthanasia on the death certificate, so that's another way that they hide the information.
Yeah, but at least it's possible, because you know that the euthanasia has been done by a doctor.
Right.
So at least you could do statistics.
Well, it's supposed to be reported, but there's no way to know if the doctors actually report them. Anyway. Others have included these activities under existing codes. Doctors have complained that they have not been paid, that reimbursement rates are too low, and that travel in rural areas for home visits is not compensated. We found that information about assisted suicide fees is not easy to come by.
But is that true of just assisted suicide or everything else?
Okay. According to the article in the Globe and Mail, as of July 2017, doctors could charge the following fees in various provinces. The values are rounded to the nearest dollar. $622 in Alberta, $600 in New Brunswick, $500 in Quebec, $480 in Manitoba, and $466 in Saskatchewan. On May 1st of this year, the province of British Columbia increased the rates doctors are paid for providing euthanasia and related services, and the original fee, a flat rate of $200, was raised to $280. So all these other rates were from the other provinces, and we don't know exactly what services that covers, because it wasn't in the report, and we could not track the source of the information. But what we do know is that the $200 was increased to $280, And it covers several services that are associated with euthanasia, but not everything. Basically, the stuff that from providing the euthanasia. So it's writing the prescription for the lethal drug, visits to patients to explain the procedure and obtain final consent, administration of the drugs through an IV, and filing paperwork with the coroner's office after the death. So all that is supposed to cost $280 in British Columbia. Okay, there is a new $125 reimbursement for the doctor to pick up the drug from the pharmacy, which is usually the case when the person does not die in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition, the doctors can charge $114 for a home visit or up to $56 to go to the hospital at the time of the person's death. So it's sort of a flat fee for showing up at the person's house, you get $114. So we're adding up these costs in British Columbia because we have the information about how they charge. Okay, according to the Provincial Medical Services Commission, which we give a reference to in the print version of our script here, the two medical practitioners who decide if the person is eligible for assisted suicide and euthanasia, called the prescriber and the assessor.
At least they name them now.
Right, right. Well, you know, that's the BC one. You know, they may be named other things in other provinces, so we don't know.
But at least in British Columbia,
right.
They named them.
They're called the prescriber and the assessor. And the prescriber is the first, what we call generally the first doctor or the primary care doctor, but it isn't usually primary care doctor. They must be paid for assessment visits as well at a rate of $42.65 per 15-minute period. And
so
they use a bunch of periods for the session.
This unit is very short.
Right.
You talk about the life of people and you take a measurement by a very, very short time.
Right.
So they mean that it could take a very, very short time to kill people.
Well,
that's the meaning of it.
No, not. I mean, they divide it up into 15-minute blocks, and then they give you a bunch of blocks for doing this and a bunch of blocks for doing
and a maximum. Okay, but
right.
If a doctor really want to kill somebody and know that, it could take only 1 or 2 blocks, and that's it.
Right. Right. No.
So the unit is very, very, very short.
Okay. The prescriber's assessment meeting can last up to 135 minutes, and 120 minutes is 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So it's 2 hours and 15 minutes.
At maximum.
And maximum. And in that time, that's 9 periods for a fee of $384.
Yeah.
And the assessor, who is the second opinion, who provide the second opinion on eligibility, can bill for up to 7 15-minute blocks for a maximum of 105 minutes, which is a little over an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4.
So they take less than 2 hours to take a decision over the life of somebody.
Right.
And when the death penalty was legal in Canada, any kind of trial stay for weeks or many weeks.
Right.
Okay, to be sure that they doesn't do mistake. But medically, they take only 2 hours. Okay, go.
Right. Yeah, our point here is that it's unrealistic to expect medical practitioners.
At least that we could say.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's the least we could say. To get an accurate picture of a person's grievous and irremediable medical condition, their prognosis, history, and circumstances, as well as their reason for asking to die, and to fully explore options to solve those problems.
Yeah.
All during a 2-hour visit.
Yeah. At maximum.
Right.
2 hours.
Nor is 2 hours enough time to decide whether a person is competent to make the decision, if they are subject to external pressure, or might be vulnerable to inducement to commit suicide in a time of weakness.
Okay, police may hire the doctor because they are kind of Superman in inquiry. Okay, that's the way it is.
Yeah,
It was me.
So basically, the doctor has to go do a complete assessment process and has to engage in all the safeguards within that period, and that's not
Unbelievable.
That's not a good.
That's unbelievable.
And that's only if their own doctor who knows them well is doing the appointment.
Right.
If you don't know the doctor at all, you're going to take to do all the basic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's if the doctors know the person, there's a chance. But if the doctor doesn't know the person,
and it happened quite a lot of time because people do doctors.
Shop around.
Right, exactly. If the person is just visiting this doctor for the first or second time, then there's no chance that the doctor will have a very deep, profound knowledge of the person and have a good idea of the reasons they're asking and all that stuff. Okay, under some conditions, British Columbia doctors can be compensated for travel with up to $250 payments for less than 2 hours travel, or $1,500 for more than 10 hours. And those conditions, one of them is that there has to be no doctor in the area who would provide the euthanasia, and one of the two assessments has to be done by telemedicine, by video conference. So the doctor isn't even in the room when they're deciding whether the person has a grievous and irremediable medical condition, whether the person is at the end of life, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
So you're not even meeting them. And we already know that doctors are going to judge the quality of life of an ill or disabled person worse off than we ourselves would.
Right. Exactly.
Done. If they switch doctor to justice, there will be no waiting for a trial at all.
Right, right.
Exactly.
So if we add the reimbursement for performing euthanasia in British Columbia, we get $384 for the eligibility assessment, $125 for the doctor to pick up the drugs from the pharmacy, $280 for writing the prescription, obtaining the person's final consent, IV setup and performing the euthanasia, filling out the death certificate and filing reports. And I just realized that I misdid the math because I didn't include the second assessment. So
I was wondering about that. So we're about $400 off.
Bad. Naughty. I was bad. $114 for a home visit, and between $250 and $1,500 for travel reimbursement. The final total being $1,153 to $2,403, depending on the distance traveled.
Let's add another $300 to that to make up for the number that we missed.
Right. And even if there's no travel reimbursement, it's still over $1,000. So that's what the executioners are being paid, basically. These fees are much higher than the estimate offered in a study from January of 2017, published in the Canadian Medical Association's journal. The author's estimate, based on fees in Ontario for a low-cost euthanasia scenario, was $268, while a high-cost scenario was $751. The report concluded that although assisted suicide and euthanasia would cost Canada between $1.5 million and $14.8 million, presumably per year, the healthcare system could save up to $138.8 million per year.
So with those numbers, you know the value of a life and the economy the country do about medical care.
Right.
Okay, that's awful.
Right. And you know, this study came out less than 6 months after the law came into effect, which means this is a high priority for Canada to save money and not providing services to people by killing them.
Yeah. You could relate to the economy of Germany in the Second World War.
Right.
Okay, because they was calculating the cost of the debt and the profit they do by killing Jews and other people in the camp.
Right. Right. Exactly.
We are close to that.
So 2 questions arise. What kind of service are we paying for? And is this how we want to count the value of people's lives? That's the question.
We fight in the Second World War. Okay. Do we need another war?
Right. Anyway. Okay. Our second topic, a new report about euthanasia in Quebec. Last week, the Protection of Conscience Project, PCP, released an analysis of the first 2 years of Quebec's euthanasia program. This is an update of a report we described in our webcast on September 8th, 2017. Before we get into the statistics, however, we should clarify a couple of points about the report. First, the Conscience Project's studies doesn't refer to the most recent report from Quebec's Commission on End-of-Life Care, which came out last fall and summarizes data only through June of 2017. So it's supposed to be the 2-year report, but it came out in October. It's supposed to cover up through December, but it only covers from December 2015, June 2017. So a year and a half for the 2-year report. And we give a reference to our webcast of November 10th of last year for to see that report. Article 75 of the Act Respecting End-of-Life Care requires the Commission to report on the state of the end-of-life care on December 10th of 2018, which is this year. So that's like it's 4 years after the project went in, or 3 years after the project went into effect. And it's supposed to say how the project is working. Is it satisfying the goals, or, you know, are things going okay, that sort of thing. But we don't know whether this report will include analysis of euthanasia all the way through December of 2018, because, you know, we don't know what they're going to include. Mm-hmm. After this year's status report, updates will follow every 5 years.
So we will be under the radar for 4 years in a row.
Right.
Nobody will take care about anything for 4 years.
No more reports. Yeah,
and the slope was supposed to be slippery slope. The slight slippery slope is in fact a cliff. Okay.
Yeah.
For 4 years, and in 5 years we will see. Oh, Minnie!
What have we done?
Prudently.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. The PCP's report doesn't mention people who are euthanized despite being ineligible.
And it exists. And the Committee of Surveillance have found some.
The Commission on End-of-Life Care, yes.
Have found some.
Declared in both the 2 reports that have come out, they found people who were euthanized who were not eligible for euthanasia.
Yeah. So this is a murder.
Right. Nor did the PCP report discuss other failures of safeguards or problems with administrative procedures. This information is necessary to have a complete picture of how euthanasia is carried out in Quebec. What this report does talk about is the statistics in Quebec, how many people, etc. So the Conscience Report, Project's report highlights a significant increase in euthanasia deaths in Quebec through December of 2017. That's sort of the takeaway message. The total number of euthanasia requests, people asking for it, in 2016 was 714, and the total for 2017 was 1,178, and that represents an increase of 65%. So 65% more people asked for euthanasia in 2017 than in the year before.
At that rate, if it applied to my small economy, right, I will be multi-millionaire.
Right. If we could get an investment at that rate, that would be incredible.
Yeah.
The average number of euthanasia requests made per week across Quebec increased from about 14 in 2016 to 23 in 2017. Again, slippery slope, cliff.
Yeah. That's the good slope.
Right. The total number of euthanasia deaths, so we're not just talking requests, we're talking deaths now, increased by about 67%. From 454 in 2016 to 757 in 2017.
When they had talked about this law, it was supposed to be 100 a year, maybe.
People a year. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Right. The number of deaths by continuous palliative sedation rose by 28%, from 618 in 2016 to 794 last year. So again, both of the things are rising very steeply, and especially euthanasia deaths. Throughout the province, euthanasia was provided on average about 9 times per week in 2016 and 14 times per week in 2017, or twice a day. In about 1.14% of all deaths in the province in 2017 were from euthanasia. That's a large percentage. To reach that level until about 9 years after the practice was legalized there.
It takes us only 1 year.
Right. This met the projections made in the PCP report from last fall. In other words, they anticipated that number, and that was the number they got. We have no explanation for the steep rise in euthanasia. Does it have to do with the fact that Quebec's population is smaller than Belgium's? A willingness to embrace a more peaceful solution to illness and aging, or something else? We don't know.
I vote for something else.
Yeah.
We might have one reason though. If anyone's been watching CBC this week, Quebec's College of Physicians were talking about how a lack of palliative care might have made some people feel like assisted suicide was their only option if they wanted to die in a pain-free way.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, hey, duh, we told them.
Yeah.
We told them.
Yeah, 4 years ago we told them it will happen, but right. They say, no, it's not possible.
No, you're fear-mongering.
Okay. 11% of the cases, the patient, I'm sorry.
We skipped a line. You're looking at 63%.
Yeah, 63% of euthanasia requests were granted. So that means pretty much two-thirds of the people who asked for it got euthanasia. And that also doesn't count, the number is 742 in 2017 compared to 450 in 2016. And there's no information as to how many people applied to multiple doctors before being determined eligible. Of the 37% of requests that were not fulfilled, in 11% of the cases, the patient died before euthanasia was provided, up from 9% in 2016 And about 8% of the patients did not qualify for euthanasia, down from 11% in 2016. And remember that some of these people, they're getting told they're not eligible. And so they're going and finding another doctor and asking till they find somebody who says they're eligible. So that's something to keep in mind. Here are some notable numbers from specific regions in Quebec. And these numbers are just about how large the increases are. In Montérégie, the number of weekly requests jumped from 1.7 to 6 per week.
Wow.
In Outaouais, which is where Gatineau, the city across from Ottawa, is, the total number of euthanasia deaths almost doubled from 11 in 2016 to 21 in 2017. Wow. In Chaudière-Appalaches, the total number of euthanasias more than doubled from 18 to 40.
Wow, 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 wow.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it was supposed to be 100.
Yeah.
The total number of euthanasia tripled in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, moving from 6 in 2016 to 19 last year. In 2 regions, the number of euthanasias quadrupled. Côte-Nord had 2 in 2016 and 8 last year, and 4 people were euthanized in Abitibi-Témiscamingue in 2016, while 18 people were killed in 2017. And in Laurentians, 24 people opted for continuous palliative sedation in 2016, while 84 people chose it in 2017. That's 3 times the number. So if after this last report, they're going to stop publishing the numbers on a regular basis. We won't necessarily get the numbers on a regular basis. We don't know what the federal report will do, whether it will include numbers from Quebec or not, because, of course, the federal government isn't doing a very good job of tracking what's happening. And this report from, if you listen to Gaëtan Barrette, who is the Minister of Health in Quebec, he's all for what's happening. He says everything is fine, no problem. So this report that's going to come out in December is probably going to say everything's fine, no problem. It's all good.
Nothing to see here.
Right, nothing to see here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain. So the numbers are increasing very fast, as we predicted, and we don't know how, when you're talking about not incremental, but the other kind, exponential increases. Yeah. You don't know when that's going to stop.
Yeah. There will be a stop somewhere, because if we raise like that, within 3 or 4 years, that's the whole population of Quebec who will suicide.
Okay. Taylor, is there anything you wanted to add?
Nope, I said my piece about the CBC, so it's good.
All right. Okay, so if you want more information about the subjects that we discuss here, you can visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujours vivant not dead yet, all one word. Visit our website at tvndy.ca. You can email us at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks to Christian and to Taylor for helping us out. Thanks to you for being there. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.